I'm the kind of person that likes to change things. If I leave and everyone like me leave the country, then who's gonna build the country?
Hadi, thank you so much for being here.
Hello, Antoine. Pleasure is mine.
Hadi, let me read this. At BeOrder, we're more than just a food ordering app. We're changing the daily lives of Syrians by delivering a joyful ordering experience.
Mhm.
The least we can say is that it takes a lot of courage to start an application of this size, but a few years later, it seems like things are working out. Can you just go back to the beginning, how you came up with the idea? And were you confident that you will reach the stage you're at today?
So basically, back in 2016, my partner reached out to me, Malik, and told me that he already started something in the food tech and he wanted me with him. So I was completely lost, to be honest, and not sure if I want to go into this new venture where I have no expertise. I come from a travel and tourism background. I've never worked in the hospitality and restaurants and logistics thing, neither in the tech industry. So when Malik reached out to me, I said, okay, I'm interested by the tech and I want to do something in the mobile apps. And it was very trendy back then. All these apps, big Uber, it was the hype for the gig economy apps. And I said, okay, let's try it and see what we can do in Syria. Syria back in 2016, it was still wartime. Uh, it was not very nice. Let me say frame it this way: to be living in Damascus, and I'm the kind of person that likes to change things, and I wanted to do some change, but I couldn't. So I said, okay, maybe I can go into tech and do something about it in tech. And this is how it started.
So you look at a country which is unfortunately a war-torn country that's been fighting for years, and you still decide and you still think, you know what, we can do something in that market.
Of course, I mean, as long as you have people who are there and they want to live, they want a lot of services. Maybe I could have made more money if I started the same app or similar other apps in the other regions. But for me, there was more of a connection, with the people, with the country, that we have to do something here. Why just to leave and to look for other markets? I mean, if I leave and everyone like me leave the country, then who's gonna build the country? Everyone. I mean, if you can afford to be there and build something, then you should try at least to do so.
Do you feel like your personal connection to the ground, the country, pushed you to be more passionate about making the app succeed?
Of course, of course. I mean, uh, I have another nationality, and it was pretty easy for me to leave. But I've studied in France, in Paris, and I've lived in Beirut for several years before the war started in Syria. And let me tell you that I didn't feel myself doing anything there in either countries. And I felt that there is so much space to change in Syria, and you can do something that would have your fingerprint on it, and you can really change people's lives. This is exactly what BeOrder was about, and is still on.
You talked about your co-founder, Malik. It's the relationship at the top is crucial for the success of a business.
Of
So
course.
since you're not from the F&B field and you're not a techie person, how were you both able to split your jobs and make sure that this was a good relationship between both of you?
Well, that's a very, very interesting topic, actually. Um, and I think that most of the startups that fail is because of the lack of this trust and relationship between the both partners, at least two partners. I mean, you need two people at least to run a successful company. You need two people to raise a kid, right? At least. And I can tell you honestly that Malik's effort and support in the early days was so needed to keep the momentum and to keep the energy up. Every time that I was depressed, numbers were not picking up, he was there to give me the energy and the boost, to remind me of the vision and what we're trying to achieve, and make me feel and remember that this is gonna happen and things are gonna happen. And the dynamics are very interesting. So I knew Malik for 10 years before we partnered, a little bit more actually. And we were very good friends. We had never worked together before. And I can say that he does a much better job, maybe from me, in nurturing this relationship. Um, and this is a very important part. I mean, the, the trust part, the communication between both founders is so important. And of course, meanwhile, it will not all be paradise. You will have a lot of fights, a lot of misalignment, a lot of different ideas. Um, but he has this very strong capability to give me the space to do what I want to do. And this is, I think, that allowed us to stay together and to grow and to reach where we are today.
Since you're saying it's, and rightfully so, it's not all uh, rainbows and
Oh,
happiness
no.
all the time between in a partnership. So do you guys have a system in place? Like, do you, every time there's two different ideas, how do you settle it? Is it we go back and forth and someone has to agree? Because when you're two people, you basically have these two pillars of two decision makers. There's no third person who can break the tie. So what kind of system do you have in place to make sure that anytime there's a conflict, you keep moving forward?
Well, to be honest, there is no much uh, system, as in a rigid system or a playbook that we follow. We use more our instinct, and basically we try to be very open and talk transparently to each other. These, I think, are the most the biggest pillars in our relationship, and we make sure that we keep the door open. So a lot of time, maybe we get in conflicts, and we just decide to discuss this topic later on and revisit after a while, and we take a break for a day or another. Um, it's very important that we are in the same space, so it's very easy to meet, and We make sure that we meet frequently. So at least we have a one-on-one together every 15 days or 10 days, something like that. But we don't use a framework that is rigid with a very systematic approach.
Hadi, I want to ask the obvious question. There are so many big players in the world, and they're not regional players. They're just operating everywhere. Are you worried at all that they can just scoop in the market and just take over?
I mean, in any business, you should be worried, okay? And I don't think that there is safety in any type of business. And let me tell you that at running at a startup, you will have a much more risky business. And of course, international players coming in is one of the major risks that we worry about. But we also worry at many other risks involved in our business. And to be honest, Syria is still not very sexy for international players to come in. We've heard today that the sanctions are being lifted on Syria. A lot of people are getting more and more interested in investing in Syria, but this will take some time. And of course, the country needs a lot of money, and the economy needs to be growing to become more and more appealing to international players. Now, the GDP per capita is very, very low today. So as long as it's so devastated, not much of international companies would be interested on the short term. But of course, that's part of how we see ourselves exiting in the future, probably. This is how we saw a lot of food ordering apps exiting in the region and globally. So this is one way. And the other way is, of course, that they come in and they don't buy any local player and they just decide to build versus acquire.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's very similar models that happened very close to Syria, where
Yeah.
local companies were able to succeed and get acquired by those global giants. So I want to ask you, do you feel like since we've talked about the challenges of the current Syrian, the state of Syria today, you are a tech app, you're ordering through an application. So
Yeah.
do you feel like the lack of infrastructure is hurting your reach because maybe people don't have consistent internet, maybe people can't afford it in many regions? Do you feel like this is a huge barrier today?
I think that the biggest barrier is the capability of people in affording this service. Today's GDP per capita is estimated to be around $500 per person per year, which is very, very low. That's classified as below the line of poverty by the United Nations. And infrastructure definitely plays a big role in that as well. But also you have the sanctions and all these new technologies like social media, paid ads, Google ads, social media ads, all these tools that normal startup would have access to, which we don't so far in Syria. So you have these three different pillars: network, infrastructure, ads, market, and then infrastructure, and then GDP, income, economy. And all of these three things make you vulnerable. And but things are changing. And we were counting on change since day one. We believe that change is coming, and thanks God it happened. So now things are gonna change much faster, and I think that in 1 year or 2 years' time, things will be completely different in Syria.
I'm really happy to hear that, Hadi, that first of all, you had the courage to jump in the market and that it seems like the region is heading to more towards stabilizing a little bit, especially in Syria. Um, I want to move on a more positive note, which is the success you've had so far, because we've talked a lot about challenges, but it's true that if I read the latest numbers, I don't know if these are up to date, but almost 100,000 users. Is that the latest number?
No, that's a pretty old one, actually. We have more than 300,000 activated users on the platform. Yeah.
That's a huge number of users. And
Yeah.
are most of the users one-time buyers or recurrent? Do you have the
Oh, of
statistics?
course not. Yeah, of course. There are more than one. It's a food ordering app after all. It's not they're not buying houses, right? So we have a lot of people that are coming back. I'm not in a position to mention our monthly active user base, but I can tell you that we have a market share of about 65% at least in Syria. And we have made a lot of money to a lot of restaurant owners. And a lot of them are relying on us today. We have about 700 merchants connected to the platform in 5 cities and about 1,000 drivers
Mhm.
that are also relying on BeOrder.
That's amazing. I mean, the reason why I was asking is because there's a huge expat community and of Syrians around the world, and they're always going back and forth. And I was wondering that since they're living outside, they probably have more money than the average person. So they might
Of
be
course.
using it when they're here and then go back. But do you see a local organic growth of the usage?
Definitely. I mean, you're taking me to an initiative that we started 2 years ago when we integrated BeOrder with Visa and MasterCard. So basically, we started receiving gifts for people sending gifts to their families and relatives and beloved ones in Syria. And they would pay using their cards outside Syria and get their things delivered without the hassle of sending money and exchanging money and going and buying water and grocery and food and even flowers and some electronics as well. So, of course, these are our main customer base. Um, they have a higher disposable income and they're already used to this type of services. And when they come to Syria, they want the convenience, right? So BeOrder is already ready to provide them with this convenience.
Adi, I think the order is a story of resilience and going against the odds. And based on the numbers we just talked about, it really looks like you guys have reached a certain point of scale where there's no turning back. I mean, when you talk about more than 50% market share, this means that pretty much everyone who wants to order anything online must have heard about you at this point. So I'm gonna end with this question. We've talked a bit about the challenges, the good, the bad, the sanctions. Are you optimistic about the next couple of years for Syria, the local market, and the order?
I mean, that's a big question, first of all. And as a founder, you have to be optimistic. You cannot be otherwise. Otherwise, you cannot be a founder. You cannot found a company. You would not take such a risk. And politically speaking, things have changed to the better in Syria. And this we've all heard about in the news. The Americans decided to lift the sanctions for the time being. And this will take us to a different stage where international and regional investors and players will start to consider the market. Now, this might be a great opportunity for local startups, as well as it might be a big threat to them. And this is what I wrote on my LinkedIn page a few months back, that we will see now how resilient and if there is a chance to any startup, local startup in Syria to succeed and to exit or not. Because the ecosystem started a few years ago and several startups are there trying to solve people's problems in Syria, but none of them managed to exit yet. Now you have BeOrder as one of the leading startups in this ecosystem. You have others that are also at our same size or around our size. And it's a big challenge to the whole ecosystem. So we will see in the coming year what's happen. I hope that we're gonna hear some successful stories, some success in the it's